Aloha once again. We're back at Ho'oikaika. And it's really cool because I got a chance to talk to a gentleman who I haven't seen for a while. I think the last time I seen you guys when you visited Nu'uanu, this was like, I think it was like 2016, 2017 about. That was like the last time I seen you and Becca. But Bill Clement, I knew this guy back in college at BYU, hung out with the same circles and whatnot. And it's kind of funny just keeping in touch and seeing all the different lives that our friends have led to. And Bill has a real interesting story as well. And so I wanted to bring him on a show because he got a lot of cool stuff. He says he's being really humble, but his story is actually really cool, man, because I know a little bit about his background, but I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to let Bill do his thing. So, brother Bill Clement, please tell a little bit about yourself to the crew.
Hey, where's the applause? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's hey, yeah, what's up, Gavon? It's good to see you, brother. So I have to say before we get started, yeah, I was thinking about the last time I saw you, and we were actually it was at church, and we went. It was the first time I'd met your wife, and we're out there visiting the Laos, David and Noel, and so it's been a long time. So I'm glad that you still look the same. I guess I still look the same, but
Bro, I don't look the same, but you definitely do, man. You definitely believe me. That's why I only show from here up, from the bottom half.
Bro, that's why. Yes, you don't want to. Well, it's funny because my wife knew we were getting on Becca. She's like, "So you're gonna go on Gavon's show? Oh, that's awesome!" And she was like, "You're gonna change, right?" I'm like, "Why? What's wrong with what I'm wearing?" She's like, "Your sweater, it's dirty." I'm like, "Whatever, I'm fine. This is how it is." So, no, again, thanks. It's glad to be here. Yeah, when you asked initially, you reached out to me, and I was like, "Why do you want to be on this show?" I'm like, "You have all these amazing guys," and but I am grateful. Thanks for talking me into it and explaining. We're just trying to show Polynesian men where they're at. Give a good example. So I guess I'll give a little background on myself. So. My name's Bill. I was born in Apia, Samoa, when I was shortly after. So I was about 7 months old. I was adopted and brought over to the States. And so that's about as much Samoan as I can claim. People, I mean, you see me and people are like, "Oh, you're something," which I'll talk more about that in a second. But I say, "Oh, I was born in Samoa." And they're like, "Oh," but I'm like, "That's about it." Because I was adopted by a white family and raised in Arizona for a couple of years and then in Utah. So I grew up in Utah. The other parts about my upbringing, so watching your show, I don't know. I haven't seen all the episodes, but like a lot of the other guests you've had is single parent household. This is my adopted side. My mom and dad, I don't have many memories of my dad. They were together and then they split when I was young. I think I was like 2 or 3. And so actually some of my life choices were of some of the memories that I have of him. But he struggled. You know what? It's when you get older, you realize life happens. And he was a little bit older than my mom. He was like 15 years older when they got married. And so he was in his 30s. She was in her early 20s. And he had dealt with addictions, alcoholism, different stuff. And so unfortunately, the memories I have him are like the bad side of that. And so when that was actually part of for me growing up is I never wanted to be like that. I didn't, I was scared of my dad, and I knew eventually when I would have family or kids, I didn't want them to be scared of me. So from a young age, I was like, nope, never drinking, never touching that stuff. So just one of those things that's set. But anyways, so raised with single mom. We lived in Arizona for a while, moved up to Utah. So, yep, I hail from Utah Valley, good old Orem, Utah. A lot of people know where that is. If you don't, it's right next to Provo. It's pretty much the same, but lived there for pretty much my whole life. Went on a mission to Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, when I got older. It's backtrack a little bit. It's funny you say, so we meet people, my kids now, I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. And we'll meet people and they're like, "How do you know them?" And the easiest thing is to say, "Oh, back from college." And like you said, from college. Funny thing is, I wasn't going to college then. I wasn't a student. It's hard to tell a lot of people that. even like friends or whatever, they're like, oh, how do you know people? Like there's people out here that we've met, and let me just say, I live in Sacramento now, California, and so I don't know if you know the Alcancels, Brian Alcancel. Anyway, so him and his wife, Melody, they were out here, and yeah, same thing. They're like, how do you guys know each other? We met or saw each other at church, and everything is back in college. So uh, you've had some of my good friends from high school, college, whatever on. You've had Sam and Opapo on. You've had tons of people. Basically everybody. We all know each other. We're all related, right? But no. So when in high school, how do I? This is always the delicate, difficult subject to say is when you're talking about your upbringing. Is I love my mom. She taught and instilled a lot of great things in me, and I'm grateful. But there's some things where I'm like, it'd be interesting. So my mom passed away back in 2019, but it'd be interesting, to have more conversations to say, because you don't know where they were at that time, to say, how come you didn't do this? How come you did this? Is that school is important, but there wasn't a lot of backing, like, kind of probably how, like I tell my kids now, and I'm like, dude, you're going to school or else, and it's kind of that or else could be a big thing. But, I didn't have a lot of that, where I think also, bro, sorry about this glare. I keep seeing it. This glare is really bad. I should have wore a hat. Anyways,
no, man, no. You're good, man. It's celestial. It's celestial.
Yeah. So we'll go with that. Anyways, but no, so yeah, school just wasn't my thing. I mean, I never worked hard. It's funny, I wish I could go back and see so I showed my son I had a report card, don't ask me why, from when I was in junior high, and I showed it to him. And he was just like, he kept looking at it and he's like, Dad, it's a 1 point something or whatever. And I'm like, and he's like, how do you even do that? I'm like, you just don't go. You don't, you don't do anything. But anyways, so I went through high school, never did well. I could have, I just didn't put in the effort. Honestly, I tell kids all the time now. I'm like, you truly have to work not to, I mean, high school should be easy, right? It should be easy. But I didn't graduate actually until years later. So my graduating class was 96. That's not something you want to be proud about. They'd be like, I didn't graduate with them, but I just kind of kept it on the low. Like, some people, they'd be like, anyways, so high school graduated, and so I went to school with Koki, and I went to school with Scott Tuitapo and a bunch of them. And so, they did their, so Koki actually was my in at BYU, which is kind of funny for those that know, is that he lived in what is it? Desert Towers. And so I would always go hang out with him and his floor mates. So I know tons of people still now. Some of my best friends now are from there. And so that's why a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we were in the dorms together. And I'm like, yeah, let's rewind 25 years. I was in the dorms, but I wasn't like, I did everything except for go to classes. Like I even used Dining Plus, for those that know. Like people are like, how do you have Dining Plus? And I'm like, I let them use my car, which is actually my mom's car at the time, to drive around, and they gave me anyways. So, but anyway, so I went on a mission, which let me real quick go through that. I don't want to. It's what's interesting. So within our our faith that we attend, every young man should go on a mission, right? And so, especially growing up in Utah, it's big. You go at 19. At the time, it was 19. Or I was like, I should go. I want to go. And so I ended up, when I was 20, I did everything necessary, got the paperwork, and went to what's called the Santa Rosa, California. And so I was like, all right, did the MTC thing. I went out there and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I was there for about, it wasn't long. It was maybe a couple months. And I just said, I'm done. I'm ready to go home. And of course, my mission president tried to talk me like, stay, stay. And I was like, no, it's interesting because this is indicative of my life. Anything that had been tough, I'd just been like, no, like school, all that stuff. I'd be like, no. Like as soon as it got hard, I was like, I'm going to take the easy way out. Anyway, so I came home and, of course, family's there. My mom, this is one of the things where I knew, one of those steps where I knew that my mom loved me was I knew that she wasn't happy with my choice. And she obviously said, well, you need to work or go to school, but she still she showed up and there was no shame put on me in a way where she just, loved and strengthened me. And so I started dating a girl, and about a year later, I was like, oh, maybe I should get married. And, doing those things that you do when you're going to get married, like really seeking, is this the person? And I just got the feeling I needed to go back out on a mission. And so got things in order and put papers in and went to Oregon and, had a great 2 years out in Oregon and came home at 23 and through mutual friends met my wife, which, Becca, she's amazing. But, that's definitely one of the blessings in my life is, I've watching some of the episodes, all the guys, they talk, a lot of them talk about their spouses. It's true, dude. Like, it's the best thing. I mean, I know that you would say the same, is that, she knows me better than I know myself, is that times when I struggle going through different hard times, she'll just sit there and patiently wait and then say something. And I'm like, the stubborn side of me is like, nah, that ain't right. That ain't right. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, you're right. But no, so we were married for a while. And so here's another exciting part of my story is, so I'm Samoan, going back to my roots. Right. And, so I grew up in white family, Holly family, whatever. So that's, a lot of times some people will joke that I'm an Oreo, brown on the outside, white on the inside. And I'm like, I can't argue. There's some truth there, maybe a lot, but she wanted to know. And so she got on some, this was mid 2000s, where she got on some chat rooms trying to find out information. And so we have my birth certificate from Samoa. And so she was just trying to contact people. And she made contact with a lady who said, oh, I think I know who this is. And so she, they started just messaging back and forth and they were matching everything up. And she's like, yeah, I think it's my, so this lady, her dad would be my great uncle. And she was just kind of like, yeah, I think so. And she was like, okay, well, let's look. And she's like, well, we have a book of, genealogy. And she's like, yeah, his mom's Tina. And she's like, yeah, that would be my, whatever, to her, my cousin. She's like, yeah, she had 10 kids. And we're like, 10 kids? What? And they're like, yeah. And on there, so my Samoan name was Alesana and the last name was Leunga. And so on there's my name and there's all the information, and come to find out that, yeah, this really is family. But here's the crazy part is that, so this woman who ends up being my cousin, she lives in Vegas. And so her and her family live in Vegas. We're like, all right, that's cool. We're up in Utah at the time in Utah. And she's like, yeah, my dad lives in Utah. And we're like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah, he actually lives in Orem. And we're like, what? And she's like, yeah, she's like, we grew up in Utah. We grew up in Orem. And I was like, what? No way. We're like, okay. And so they're like, well, where do you live? Obviously we're like, where do you live? And so they gave me the address. I'm like, your family lives like 6 blocks away from me where I grew up. And it comes out that like we knew each other. So her youngest siblings, she had 2 twin brothers who were the youngest. They were a little bit older than me, but I knew who they were. Like I saw them all the time. It was funny because, again, Utah, it's mainly members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they're Catholic. So we didn't see each other at church gatherings. So, but yeah, so it ended up, we all of a sudden I had this big family. And I was like, well, I'm one of 10, and I was adopted out. Where since then, we went and spent some time with them. I've got most of my siblings are either in Samoa or in New Zealand. And so I haven't met any of them face to face, but we've, through social media, Facebook, whatever, we've seen each other. And I actually got to see my birth mom through a FaceTime or whatever when they were in the island. So I was like, wow. So we're actually planning, we were going to go over there for a wedding. One of my sisters, biological sisters, was getting married, but then the pandemic hit and it was in New Zealand. So we're like, well, we're not going over there. But so it's kind of cool. So I'm still trying to, you're trying to meld all those things. It's interesting because we have, my family who, again, it's the white side. And then we have my Samoan side of the family. And then my wife is half Korean, half Brazilian. So then we have the Korean side of the family. And then we have the Brazilian side of the family. And so it's like, it's crazy, but it's a lot of fun.
Bruh, that is so cool. And your story is like the first I've ever heard of on the show where, somebody was adopted. In fact, yeah, you're the only one that's adopted. I've never had another guy that was adopted on the show. And then you're talking about how you found out the history of your family, bro. That's like I was telling you, man. Cool stories. Thanks for sharing that. I know it's super personal too. If you were to talk about challenges that you overcame, what would you say was maybe your greatest challenge that you overcame in your life, man?
Greatest, yeah, that's a good question, bro. I'm still going through it. That's life, right? All of life is continual. You get through one challenge, and you're like, all right, I got it, and then another one comes. And you're like, okay, let's get through it. Oh, greatest challenge. Um, to be honest, it's myself. The greatest challenge is just the insecurities that I've had, the self doubt. Um, going through life not feeling enough, right? Is that especially growing up from a young age, my mom would tell me when I was little is that I would, the little kid would come up and be like, Mom, how come I'm brown and you're white? And she was always very upfront. She would say, that I was adopted, that I was born, here and that I was adopted and everything. And of course, as a little kid, I didn't get it. So I'd be like, okay. But then growing up, you would see again, friends like Satema, and a lot of them, like their family grew up just right by me, or like Tuitapos, they grew up. So I'd be them and I would see there's the culture that I'm in with my family, but I could see like the Islander side, right? That this is what I am by birth, and not really not what's the word I'm trying to look for? Anyways, just not understanding that, but wanting to be part of that, but not knowing how to get in, right? And so there was a lot of that. Just insecurities on again being an only child, seeing families with multiple kids, insecurities and doubts with not having a dad. That was especially I struggled a lot with that, where you would have these different activities for you'd see dads and their sons, their father and sons things, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm over here, whatever. And so just that, and then not how do I word this? Not fulfilling, getting to your biggest fulfillment. I think, especially earlier in life, I look at it now where especially when I work or talk with people or anything, is, we hear stories from people, or, even myself, about stories, and we hear about all the things that they failed at, or all the different things. And a lot of times, I'll talk to people and they'll say, this isn't going well for me. And I'll be like, okay, so what are we going to do now? Right. Or it's like, okay, so we're going to just sit in the misery and just sit and complain, or are we going to all of a sudden let's turn around and let's find out how we do this? And so for me, that took a while. That took a lot of talking with my mom, sometimes talking with my wife, just some looking inward and saying, hey, what you were dealt, that's what you're dealt. Now let's make the most of it. And again, looking at other people too, as I'm like, dude, I had it a lot easier than some people, right? Is that I was blessed with a lot. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I think the greatest challenge is just kind of trying to self-mastery, right? And that's why I say lifelong, is that there's constantly something to work on. And so you just start to you just learn more about yourself, especially as I've gotten older. A lot of it, you realize you're like, why did I care about this? You're like, let's go. Come on, next thing. So.
Bruh, that is an awesome answer, man. You totally answered that question and then some. Because, like, there's a group of us guys. Some of the guys are on the show too. We talk about self-mastery a lot, like how you just mentioned, and talk about self-discipline, especially. Especially nowadays, after COVID happened, a lot of guys going through mental health issues, whatnot. It's a big thing now. And I like watching those movies that discuss that topic about your worst enemy is yourself. If you hold yourself accountable, you empower yourself, and you realize, like, I'm the one that chooses, I'm the one that chose to either watch Netflix for an hour or hit up the gym for an hour. That's why I got this belly over here. It's like, because I chose Netflix. It's my fault. Nobody else's fault. It's my
right.
Something like that. So I even bought this this home fit gym. It's like a pull-up bar set up with like dip bars and all this kind of stuff now. So now I ain't got no excuse.
Yeah, for real.
For some reason, I'm too busy to go to the gym. I'm just over here knocking off push-ups and pull-ups and stuff, just trying to do something. And it's not just physical too. It's for my mental health as well. Just doing something to, exert energy and get the endorphins going. It's super helpful, man.
That's one of the things that I love. It's funny because I do this too, is that in the technological age that we're in, where everything is really at our fingertips, right? Is especially we can see all these motivated people, all these people that are doing so much, and that also are sharing, and we can learn how to do those things. Where just an example is, I like to take photos, I like to take videos, and so I can watch all these YouTube videos. I can do all these. I even took a local class on photography, and it's all fun. But the biggest thing is you got to get out there and do it. right? Is every person that you watch, they'll tell you, they'll be like, hey, I can teach you all these things, I can show you all these things how to do it. You can buy all the nicest gear, whatever it is you're into. The thing is, you got to get out there. You got to take the first step. And so, whatever we go through, that's the biggest thing, right? Is that you got to be like, especially like workout. Again, same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm really lazy. I'm like, I could get back in shape. I could do that. But it's that right, that mental thing of like, well, what's holding you back? And and to be like, it's just me. I just have to decide, like, okay, exactly that same point. Am I gonna, stream something? Or let me go do some body weight stuff. Let me go jump rope. Let me go do something. Right. And then, just like I know you've mentioned about it, is that it always, we do stuff and then we try to say, what's the immediate outcome? And I can tell you from experience, my own self is I watch Netflix for an hour. After, I'll be like, oh man, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Or if I go work out or do something, then I'm like, oh, I feel good. I'm like, oh, my body feels good, blood's pumping, all those things. They'd be like, so, but yet, what do I do most of the time? I still go back to Netflix, right? So again, self mastery, still getting there.
Conclusion, folks: Netflix is evil. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation for sure, man. We got a few more minutes, and I got to ask you the question. Ask everybody, what are some, or what is one piece of advice you want to give to all the fellow Polynesian brothers watching this show and listening to you? Well, what you want to tell them, man?
Yeah. Oh man, sure. There's so many people that I pull from. All the guests that I've seen on your, especially the ones that I know, I look up to all of them. I'm like, dude, I love that guy. You know what I mean? Like for the person that he is, and like and you see people that, and you're just like, I see you, and I'm like, hey, yeah, he's doing good things. He's doing things in their life. Things that I would say for is to be yourself. Be yourself. Of course, hopefully, be your best self. And to do that, but also to serve, to love and serve others. That's the biggest thing that I found in my life, is that you would read that in the Bible, right? Is God tells us to love God, right? The two great commandments, and then to love others as ourselves. And hopefully we can fulfill that. And it's funny because that's one of my father-in-law, he would always quote that and quote other ones, and he would say, when we put others above ourselves, whether it be, hopefully first is your spouse, right? And then your family, your kids, and then your, obviously your parents, and that, and then others, is that we expand our ability to love and to help others, right? We expand our ability. And we also, I feel, in that same breath, we expand ourselves to receive blessings, or to receive love. I think that as Polynesian men, a lot of times we get, I don't want to pigeonholed, or we get put in boxes, athlete, whatever, musician, whatever, we get put as these certain things. Sometimes like maybe it's the bad things, like fighter or whatever, but we have so much more to offer, right? And sometimes we may feel kind of left out. This is even broader than just minority or Polynesian men, minorities in general, is that we feel like people won't, like, how can I get in the door if people won't open it? You'd be like, doesn't matter. They'd be like, yeah, you still be yourself. And you'd be like, eventually they'll come around, right? They'll eventually come around. But I feel that just serving others, right? And there's always somebody, again, like I said, start with your family, but then expand that to others, right? Is that do something that you don't normally do. Like, even if it's you're walking around and you see a piece of trash on the ground, instead of complaining, the next day saying, oh, there's so much litter, there's so much trash. But guess what? When you see it, pick it up, throw it away, and be like, yeah, it's just one little thing, but it's that becomes repetition, and then you start seeing positive and doing positive things. And so, as we help others, it could be anybody. As we and really that comes from then love, because right, that's what a lot of people associate Polynesian people with, is love, mana, whatever it is that we're very welcoming, and that's what we are. Is that we can be a force for good. Is that when we look at the population of the world, there's only so many of us, right? I mean, we come from small islands, but yet, look, all the people love us. And why is that? It's because we have big smiles, we're outgoing people, is that we truly do have love for others. Is that if we could welcome that to other people, then we can just, as a whole, bring up as we work with other as individuals, we can as a whole bring up everybody, right? Because I think that's a big part is that we, especially with a lot of the guests that you've had that I've watched, is they have that is each one to a person is that they found out, they serve others, they love others, and that makes them happy. But then that also brings up the other individuals that they do help. So that's what I would say.
Oh, amen, brother. It's interesting, right? Because there's so few of us. I mean, I don't know exactly what the entire population of Polynesians are in the world, but can't be that much because we're all from itty bitty islands. But crazy, right? The biggest star in Hollywood just so happens to be a half Polynesian dude right now.
Yeah.
So he's like clearing the fields for us. Kind of plowing away, giving us a lot more exposure. Now I'm seeing guys actually using like Hawaiian terms in their everyday speech now.
Yeah.
I saying mahalo aloha. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, you hear it. I know. That's I've got that from a couple of different people around, or they'll say stuff, and I'm like, "Where you're not from Hawaii? Where are you from?" And they're like, "What? You can't accept my greeting?" I'm like, "No, I love it." Like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, it's bro. Why are you talking about my cousin like that? We're all related. I'm just waiting for The Rock to return my call.
Oh, dude, hey, I'm hoping your cousin will return my message too, man. I actually reached out to him too, just kind of saying like, "Hey, I got this show. It would be cool if you could make it. If you can't, no worries, man. I know you're busy, but even if it's just 5 minutes."
Can I tell you the thing that I love about that? Again, I don't know him personally and stuff, but we don't see him like in behind closed doors, but you get the feeling that he's just a genuine person like that, right? Like you see some of his social media stuff where, he understands fame and that, that people are always going to be watching, especially in today's, society and everything. But yeah, he's always gracious and he's always welcoming, where I'm like, dude, what a great example to people in general, right? Is that to realize where your place and to be like, look, I've been blessed with so much, and be like, if somebody wants a picture, I can do that. That's like the littlest thing they're asking for. Like, and he's just super open and loving to people. But then I love it where he expects, where he's like, hey, you can do this, little things. And so I'm like, all right, brother, I support him. I was like, just don't do anything crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man. I think a lot of it has to do with those good old Polynesian values, responsibility and family, and maybe an occasional sasa here and there. I'm pretty sure Auntie Ata, incorporated that. Maybe Dwayne don't talk. I don't know if he talks about it or not, but
bro, for real. By the way, you didn't notice this. We talked about this before, but for anybody out there, so look at my eyebrow. I do have eyebrow filters on.
If you smell the people's eyebrow,
that's what the filter is called.
Oh man, hey Bill, seriously, bro, thank you so much for doing the show, man. I'm glad you did it, bro, because this is gonna be a great addition to what we have. Because nobody has a story like this one. Yeah. No, I appreciate you big time, bro.
Oh, there's more to come. I'm just kidding. Thanks so much.
We've got to do part 2 later then.
Part 2. Thanks, brother. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah, same here. Hey, folks, don't forget, like, post, and subscribe, and leave some comments on for Brother Bill, man. He's got a lot of, you heard of experiences he got. If you're going through some similar things, man, please talk to him. And he's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of manao and ike, a lot of experiences to share with all of y'all. So go ahead and hit him up, man. But Bill, much mahalo. Thanks to your family and Becca again for allowing me to have this time with you.
Of course.
See you later, brother.
All right, love you, man.
Love you too, bro.